They say loneliness is a condition of the modern man. But what if loneliness isn't just the absence of people? What if it's the result of knowing yourself too well? That's the tragedy of Notes from Underground, the confession of a man who thinks too much, feels too deeply, and lives entirely in the dark corners of his own mind. He isn't a hero. He isn't a villain. He's something far more terrifying. He's aware. The man we meet calls himself a sick man. Not physically, but spiritually. He lives underground, not in a literal cave, but in isolation from society, from meaning, from love. He hides from the world, yet he can't stop thinking about it. He despises people, yet longs for their approval. He claims to hate life, yet he cannot stop analysing it. He is, in every sense, his own tormentor. Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground begins not with a story, but with a wound. A man who speaks to us directly, not as a narrator, but as a consciousness in crisis. He tears himself open for us, line by line, thought by thought, exposing the ugliness of the human mind that refuses to lie to itself. He tells us, I am a sick man, I am a spiteful man. But what he really means is, I am human, because sickness, spite, contradiction, these are not flaws of a few. They are the essence of what it means to be self-aware. He has intelligence but no purpose, emotion but no outlet. He is haunted by thought. Every desire he feels, he immediately questions. Every belief he undermines. He cannot simply live. He must dissect his own existence until there's nothing left to feel. He once says, the more conscious I was of good and evil, the more deeply I sank into the mire. Because the more we understand life, the harder it becomes to live it. And that's the paradox of being truly conscious. To think too much is to suffer. To feel too deeply is to break. To understand too clearly is to lose the illusion that keeps others sane. In the underground, he doesn't need anyone, yet he dreams of being seen. He writes letters he'll never send, creates arguments that will never be heard. He plays chess with his own shadow. He builds worlds in his head, elaborate scenarios where he humiliates others or is humiliated himself. He imagines confrontations, victories, revenge, and then despises himself for imagining them. Because in fantasy he finds power, but in reality he is powerless. This is the cycle of the underground man. Dream, despise, repeat. He lives in contradiction because contradiction is the only thing that proves he's alive. He knows that when he chooses something logical, he's acting like a machine. When he acts irrationally, at least he feels human. He says, what is man without desire, without will, without the freedom to be absurd? This Dostoevsky understood long before modern psychology, that humans crave not happiness, but freedom, even the freedom to destroy themselves. A machine that always chooses correctly might be efficient, but it's not alive. To err, to desire, to regret, these are the fingerprints of the human soul. He mocks the idea of rational progress. He calls it a lie. He says, man will never give up his suffering, because suffering is the only reason he knows he exists. That's why he refuses to be fixed. Society tells him what to be, productive, moral, kind. But he knows kindness born of obedience isn't kindness, since conformity. He would rather rot in isolation than be purified by hypocrisy. He sees truth, raw, merciless truth, and it disgusts him, yet he cannot look away. Then something happens. He's invited to a dinner with his old schoolmates, people who once mocked him, forgot him. He tells himself he doesn't care, yet he obsesses over it for days. He plans his clothes, his words, his posture, everything, just to appear dignified. He wants to prove he's superior, but the night comes, and reality shatters his fantasy. They ignore him, laugh at him, treat him as if he's invisible. He's late, awkward, overcompensating, and his revenge dissolves into humiliation. Later, he follows them to a brothel, desperate to feel something, anything, other than shame. And there he meets Liza. Liza is a prostitute. But in Dostoevsky's world, no one is ever just one thing. She represents everything he has lost. Warmth, simplicity, forgiveness. He speaks to her with cruelty, yet something inside him aches. He tells her that her life is doomed, that no one will ever love her, that she will die forgotten. But beneath his cruelty, he's speaking to himself. He's projecting his own despair onto her, trying to destroy in her the same weakness he hates in himself. And yet, when she shows him compassion, real, quiet, unconditional compassion, he breaks. She sees in him something no one else does, a soul still capable of pain. She comes to him later, after his cruel words, seeking not revenge, but connection. And what does he do? He insults her again. He mocks her for caring. He pushes away the only person who could have saved him. And when she leaves, he falls to the ground and weeps, not for her, but for himself, because he realizes he cannot love. He can only analyze love, tear it apart, and drown in the meaning of it. That's the essence of the underground man. He is trapped in a loop between intelligence and paralysis. He understands everything too well to act naturally. Every time he reaches for life, he destroys it with thought. He's a man who's so aware of his own contradictions that he cannot live at all. He represents a new kind of human, one born in the age of consciousness, where awareness replaces instinct and reason replaces faith. He's the first modern man, and in many ways he's still ours. When Dostoevsky wrote Notes from Underground, it wasn't just a story, it was a warning. He saw what was coming, a society where people would worship logic, comfort, and order, and lose their souls in the process. He was saying, if you take away man's ability to choose irrationally, you take away his humanity. Because when you make every choice predictable, you remove the chaos that gives life meaning. We think we want peace, but what we really want is to matter, and sometimes to matter will burn the world down. The underground man doesn't just speak for himself, he speaks for the part of every person that feels unseen, the part that wants to connect but fears rejection, the part that resents others for their happiness, the part that hides behind cynicism because hope feels too fragile. He says, I could never become anything, neither good nor bad, a lazy scoundrel who lies in the corner. That's not just him, that's all of us, when fear paralyzes desire. He embodies the war between what we think we should be and what we really are. Dostoevsky wrote him as a mirror, not a monster. He wanted us to recognize the underground man inside ourselves, that voice that whispers, why try if you'll only fail? Why love if it will end in pain? Why hope if nothing ever changes? That's why the story has no resolution, no redemption, no happy ending. Because life, for the underground man, isn't a story, it's an echo. He confesses everything only to realize no one is listening. And that's the cruelest truth of all, that sometimes, even when we bare our souls, the world remains indifferent. But here's the secret. Dostoevsky hides between the lines. Awareness is agony, but it's also the beginning of freedom. The underground man's suffering is the price of consciousness. He refuses illusion, and that refusal hurts more than any lie. But it also means he sees, clearly, painfully, truthfully. To wake up is to suffer, but to stay asleep is to die. So maybe the underground man isn't warning us to avoid his path. Maybe he's daring us to walk it without collapsing, to face the void, to see our contradictions, and to live anyway. He says, the best definition of man is a creature that walks on two legs and is ungrateful. Ungrateful, not because he's evil, but because he's aware. Gratitude dies where curiosity begins. Peace ends where truth starts. And the underground man, he chooses truth even if it kills him, because in his twisted, trembling way, he's more alive than those who live in ignorance. At the end, we don't pity him, we recognize him. We see the reflection of our own restless thoughts, our own cynicism, our own longing to be both understood and left alone. He's the man who never stops thinking, even when it hurts. He's the voice that says what we're too afraid to admit, that sometimes we don't want happiness, we want to feel, even if that feeling is pain. So ask yourself, in your quiet moments when no one is watching, when the lights go out and you're alone with your thoughts, do you feel free, or do you feel trapped in your own mind? Are you living your life, or just analysing it to death? Because somewhere deep down, beneath all the logic and noise, the underground man is still whispering to us all, I think, therefore I suffer.